Hi everyone, this group is conformed by Laura Findlay, Paula Camacho, and me who's talking, Paula Acosta. Today we are going to talk about the Montessori model. Okay, so the Montessori model is an approach to teaching that was created by Maria Montessori in the beginnings of the 20th century, and it is based on the independent learning of children. So it basically says that children can direct their own activities and work in a collaborative environment in which the children and the teacher are involved. This model is really interesting because there is a real concern about the environment in which children learn. So, its main characteristic is to provide a tidy, pleasing, and simple environment in which they really feel comfortable and well. In this environment, there are many materials and things that children can work with, and they are there for a reason, and it is to improve their development. Now let's talk about the principles of this interesting model. The first one is that children are formed as lifelong learners. The idea is to get children who are autonomous and competent in almost any aspect of their lives. In addition to that, we have to say that it is really important the respect that the teacher has for the children, because we have to think about how education was formed at certain times. Children were considered inferior. Adults didn't see all the potential that they have. So it's really important to consider children as a whole, as someone who feels, who understands, and well. It is taking us to the next point, which is the prepared environment. So basically, it says that teachers should prepare before every lesson the environment, the materials, and all the things that children will do to learn. So they are gonna basically plan many options for them to choose the best, taking into account the necessities that they have. So it is like a little bit of autonomy, as I said before, because they can choose what they want to learn and how they want to do it. About the next one, it is about the sensitive periods. So basically, it says that, or the Montessori model says that children have certain times of susceptibility where they can learn like different skills. So, as an example, we can have like the different ages in which children learn language to talk and that stuff. It is said that, for example, if children don't learn to talk before the 5 years, later on it will be more difficult for them because this sensitive period will be over. So it is very related with that. And well, about the next point, it is about students, and as I said before, one of the principles is to consider the individual as a whole. So they are people who think, who are emotional, who have to develop a cognitive domain. So they learn not like in different steps, like learning one thing and then the other, but everything at the same time. The next point is the absorbent mind. So basically, Montessori believed that children educate themselves. They do it just by living. So they learn from the environment. They develop their systems. They learn to walk, to talk, and to do many different stuff without the big help of others. Of course, they need their parents and their teachers, but they do it not because they are told to, but because they develop in that way. they have to because they are human beings. At last, in this section, we have that children can auto-educate. So basically, Montessori believed that children are capable of educating themselves. It is also known as self-education, and they are basically actively involved in a prepared environment, so they can have the freedom of choice to educate themselves and choose what they want to learn. So the role of the teacher will be that to prepare children to choose how they want to learn. Now, about the view of learning, we have that learning is child centered. So it means that children are the focus of every single lesson. With this idea, Montessori education basically promotes like a passion for learning. They want them to get involved as much as they can, and in that way, what teachers are going to do is to support and facilitate this natural learning process, because in the Montessori model, children can just learn from the environment. They just learn by living. So the idea in the classroom is not to force this process and make it something boring or something like that. The idea is to have a setting in which they enjoy the freedom that they have to choose their lessons. In addition to that, we have to say that they believe that learning is something individual. So even though it is thought that children have certain stages to learn certain things, um, every child should be given the chance to learn at their own pace, so they can have enough time, the time that they need to learn everything. So it will promote like a passion for discovery and natural curiosity, which is really good for them. At last, we would have to say that method helps the students to develop as a unique individual, as a human being, which is a whole. So they would be disciplined, concentrated, and always internalizing the learning through the preparation of the lessons and in the classroom. And well, the teacher is in charge of that, to give the child or children different options so they can choose what they want and have just a guide to learn. Now let's talk about other different aspects in the Montessori model.
Now, we are going to learn about two crucial roles: role of teacher, role of student, and vision of classroom. First, the teacher in the Montessori method is conceived as a guide and facilitator of learning who observes the needs, capacities, and interests of each student and offers them opportunities to develop without applying rewards or punishments. Since the teacher understands that learning itself is personal reward of each child. The ultimate goal is for the teacher to intervene less in this process of discovering the environment and learning as the child develops. Role of student. According to the growth and development stage set by Montessori, the student must enrich and develop freely, learning from their own mistakes. The student in the classroom has an active and dynamic role in their learning process. Now, vision of classroom. The classroom should have natural light, soft colors, and clear spaces to promote concentration and tranquility of the students. The material should be placed invisible and accessible spaces from children so that they have the independence to handle them when necessary. According to the theory, a space where the child feels safe and motivated allows the child to be happy learning new things. The most important thing to note is that Montessori classrooms are welcoming and well organized spaces that help the child feel calm and at home.
About the materials that are used in Montessori method, the Montessori materials are sensory-based learning tools that are designed to provide independence, learning, repetition, and practice. The Montessori materials are beautiful and simple to use, guiding children through the Montessori curriculum as they increase in the complexity. They are presented to the child in sequence from easiest to hardest in accordance with their developmental needs. Thus, we can go to the types of materials that are used in Montessori method. The Montessori materials fall into five major categories: the practical life, the sensorial, the language, mathematics, and the cultural. The practical life is an area that includes activities that allow children to learn to care for themselves and their environment. It covers the care of the environment, the care of plants and animals, the care of people, preparing food, and things like grace and courtesy. These activities also help children develop their small and large muscle coordination, concentration, independence, logic, and self discipline. Here we can see the use of real implements and equipment and rather than pretend ones, right? So an example of these are the child-sized dust pan and the brushes. The second one, the sensorial, and the sensorial materials are designed to help children become more perceptive. They are essentially puzzles that represent meaningful challenges that tend to fascinate the child. Materials also build vocabulary as each of the new concepts are engaged with. An example of a sensorial material is the red roads. The red roads are 10 roads that differ only in length. They range from 10 centimeters to 100 centimeters. Here, the child conceptually experiences the notion of length because length is the only quality that varies. In Montessori's words, she has isolated the difficulty. Language. So, the language in a child development is very important. The language materials provide for vocabulary enrichment and training and the development of reading and writing. Language allows the child to express himself or herself and communicate with others. Basic skills are taught phonetically through touch and manipulation, not just listening. Language development is stimulated in all the areas of the classroom. Now, the mathematics. The math materials begin with very concrete examples of numbers, symbols, and quantity. As the child progresses, the lessons and concepts increase in difficulty and become more abstract. Starting from the meaning of numbers from 1 to 10, through to the introduction of the decimal system, simple operations, fractions, and geometry. All new concepts involve all hands-on learning, right? And it includes things like bit chains and spindle boxes. The last one is the cultural. The cultural materials give children a strong sense of who they are and their place in the world. Through interacting with the materials, children will build a global perspective, tolerance, and understanding of other cultures and a respect for our world. The cultural area includes elements of the history, geography, animals, science, drama, language, movement, social studies, health, and well being. The role of the materials. The first one we have the control of error. Each Montessori material is designed with a visual control of error. This means that the child can easily see and correct their own mistakes. This self-correcting aspect also makes the materials auto-instructional. This means that the child can discover and master the outcomes of the material through repetition and practice independent of an adult. As a result, Montessori students develop strong problem solving skills, resilience, and concentration. The second one, the role of the materials, is the progression of order. Each material is displayed in progression order, from easiest to hardest. This logical structure encourages children to organize their thinking and absorb the outcome of the material at their own pace. It also assists children with preparation for reading and writing and the way that brain naturally processes the information. The last one that is very important is the fine motor skills. Montessori materials are also beneficial for building fine motor skills in children. Fine motor development is a crucial aspect of children's education because of its link to how children come to understand their world. Children first learn through their hands. Incorporating both gross and fine motor skills is crucial to a balanced approach to childhood education that incorporates the social, physical, mental, and emotional aspects of child development. Next, let's talk about the benefits and limitations of Montessori method. The first one of benefits is the enhanced social interaction. Students have a chance to be in a leadership role and allows younger children to learn from their peers. These mixed age groups allow for children to learn from one another, teach one another, and develop life skills such as inclusion and acceptance. The second one is the independency. Since much of the learning process is self directed, children can gain a sense of independence and confidence in their abilities much faster than in a traditional school setting. The third one is the inclusive of special needs. Because children are grouped with others of different ages and have the same teacher for 3 years at a time, students with special needs tend to have less pressure to keep up with their peers and more freedom to learn and grow at their own pace. The classroom continuity can also help students with special needs for close connections with their classroom, making for a safe and stable environment in which to learn. Montessori, followed the child philosophy, allows children, not just those with special needs, to receive an individualized education. A Montessori teacher lesson plan may have each child's name on it with different goals and ideas for their unique learning style. This especially helps students with special needs to learn at their own pace. The other benefit is that the educational focus is on the whole child, the physical, the emotional, the social, etc., and not just academics. Also, children learn about and through real world activities. Other important point is that there are no grades or awards. Instead of that is the self-motivation reinforcement. Teachers that are professionals taught to teach children of that age. About the materials, lessons, and activities, they have to be very well designed to fulfill the child's development needs rather than just one lesson fits all approach. Related to the limitations, the first one is that Montessori method can be very expensive. It is hard for Montessori schools to keep their prices low. The acquisition of so many durable and high quality learning materials, as well as the lengthy and in depth training in the use of such items for young children, is an expensive undertaking. You may have to enroll your child in a private, tuition based Montessori school. The other one is that Montessori schools don't use a standardized testing. It can be a benefit, but sometimes it is difficult to analyze the needs or progress of students. The open ended structure of the classroom can be intimidating for some students, right? Children tend to like routine and structure. Even the physical barriers of desks lined up in a row can be a comfort to certain students. Montessori classrooms are built to allow movement and change, and the teachers tend to guide more than directly instruct. It can become a chaos to some students. Students have a lot of liberty, while some children become extremely self motivated with this. Others struggle from a system of freedom. Different parenting styles may impact this. If a child is unsure what action to take without the explicit direction of an adult, the Montessori method may prove challenging. The other one is that the curriculum may be too loose for some. It is up to the teacher to make sure children progress on pace. This can work well, right? But it can also create room for some subjects to fall by the wayside. Montgomery says, looking back on her own experience, that I was very underprepared for math and science classes and over-prepared for language and arts classes. This is an example, a real life example.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I would like to share my opinion about Montessori's method because for me, I have learned a lot. For example, in my experience, I had the opportunity only to learn about the theory, but in this case, I have learned about the practice. I never imagined that the practice would be so interesting because, for example, the materials, the classroom, I couldn't imagine that. For that reason, I consider that this method is very useful with young learners because you can develop their domains, motor and aesthetic domains. And I'm very excited to practice this method with my students, my children, and I would like to share that experience with you. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Paula Camacho, and I am going to share with you a short reflection about Montessori method. To start with it, I strongly believe that this is a very suitable, critical, and vital method since it gives importance to what it's supposed to be the main purpose of education nowadays. That in few is to teach people how to deal with daily life situations, not only to receive recognition or titles or even to climb in a social pyramid, but to teach people the correct way to act, to be aware of how we have to conceive animals, how we have to conceive people and our environment, being respectful, being responsible, being comprehensive, giving the value to the things that surround us. Also, I want to say that I could see the philosophy of this method, and it seems to be that it's very value, that it is based on love learning, and I could notice that it is about a process in which you can make mistakes, but you can correct them by self-correction and then practice. So it is a very valued process about correcting your mistakes, and yeah, like never give up. So I found it very interesting. In addition to that, this method reminds me an author that I read that is called Edgar Morin, and in his work titled as um, seven complex seven complex lessons for education in the future, he states how required is to be able to do domestic tasks, or like very basic tasks in our daily lives. Mm, he states that this is very important to develop complexity in subjects. So uh, I find the relation uh, between Montessori and the things that are stated by Morin, because he also says that this complexity makes that people are able to belong to society. Thus, Montessori model develops complexity in children through giving them independence, through giving them curiosity about the world, integrity, and of course, the most important, that is teaching what to do and how to act in their daily life, in the real life, in the real life context, right? So yes, that is my reflection about Montessori method. Thank you very much.
My name is Paula Alejandra Acosta, and today I'm going to give you my personal opinion about the Montessori model. So, for me, it is a really interesting model. Honestly, I had never heard about it before. So, researching and looking for information about it, I found it really enriching because I didn't know much about that, as I said before. So, taking into account what I read, what I looked for, and well, of course, what I learned, I think it is a really awesome model. At first, I really like the idea of taking into account all the details of the environment in which children learn, because I don't know, I am in agreement with it when they talk about how important is the space they are working in. For example, it has to be clean, it has to have like clear colors and be like, I don't know, really simple for them not to get distracted, or for them to be focused on their tasks, which is the important thing here. That they have like anything they need nearby, that they have access to every single tool that they need. So I found that really interesting, and actually I couldn't believe that I didn't like listen to anything about it before, because well, of course, it was let's say created or thought in the beginning of the 20th century. So I can't believe that someone at that time thought about something that, I don't know, like intelligent, you know? I think it is awesome how they focus, especially in young learners, because it gives them like a lot of tools and a lot of material to work with, and to develop like holistically, like developing all the aspects at the same time. And I really loved the independence, the creativity, and all the discipline that this model is talking about. Actually, about what I said before, like the last video, I think that maybe when we become teachers, we don't have to choose just one, but maybe the best of each model for us to become best, like, yes, better teachers, to become the best that we can be. And yes, I really like this one. I really loved like finding information about it. And yes, I think I will take like many different aspects of it to like put it in the future in my classes. So thank you so much.